The alarms are off in Cryptex land. Dangerous presence, Rick is ready to land. Nothing to worry, he comes in peace. He will tell us his story, no need to freeze. Snay, 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 you always have something to say. My guest is polemical, my guest is not static. Passionate and chemical, intense and dramatic. Rick, he has a magic shield when it is raining bricks. No place for distraction, let's see through his prisma. He is always in action, he is full of charisma. You may love Snay, or hate may be there, but you cannot say that you just don't care. Snay, 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 you always have something to say.
Hello, everyone. I'm gonna bring Rick right away. Thank you, all of you guys for being here tonight. We know that Rick is a little bit maybe polemic, if I can use that word, and he's my guest tonight. So please, guys, be respectful to Rick in the chat. The moderators, feel free to block or to ban everyone who is gonna cause trouble tonight. I guess we are gonna have a lot of Rick's followers and viewers here, so I hope we can keep this show civil. So no more protocol. I'm gonna bring our guest tonight, Rick Snay. How are you, Rick?
How you doing, Cryptex? Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here, Rick. I maybe want to start the show. I don't know if you want to say some words about the captain's death.
He wasn't a person that a lot of people on YouTube knew. I apologize for having a little trouble with my voice tonight. There were a few of us that were lucky enough to be called his friend. And he was not this person that did this unexplainable act. I don't know what happened to bring this on. He was always very caring about people. So I hope if people knew him, they'll remember him that way.
Yeah, I agree. Very, very sad news. Did you know the captain, like personally? You were close?
I met him one time. He came from his home. It's like a 2-hour drive somewhere that he knew I was going to be. And he came there with Amanda, and I got to meet both of them. And after that point, we spoke frequently on the phone and online and everything for a while. And then they're kind of I was one of the people that quiet. Sorry about that. I was one of the people that he did tell that she was pregnant again. They had been trying hard to have a baby. And he did tell me that she was pregnant again. She was pregnant with twins, and they knew it was going to be a hard pregnancy. So he kind of took, I think, about 6-7 months off of YouTube. And then he came back. And it's that she was pregnant with twins, and she lost one of the two. But she did have the second one. She carried the baby and delivered it successfully. And I didn't hear from him for like the past 6-7 months. I tried calling him a couple of times and went to voicemail. So I think there were some things going on that Uh, he didn't want to talk about. He was very private, very, very private. I talked about James Hoosier Cold Cases and I. We were both friends of his, and when we talked about him, we never called him Craig. We called him Cap because we didn't want to slip up and call him Craig in public. And by the way, he hated the name Douglas. So,
No, so sad. Very, very sad news. And I hope that people are going to be respectful here because we don't know any details and people are already talking shit online. So, yeah, very, very sad news. He was great. To me, he was the best creator here with True Crime Jesus. So, like in terms of like an artistic way to make the videos, his voice, he was an artist. Yeah.
He did great videos.
Yeah, awesome. So, Rick, before talking about Delphi, can you tell us something a little bit about you? Anything you can share? Where are you from? What do you do? I know that you play music. You are writing a book about Delphi. You work in a bar. You do a lot of things, man. Just a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was born and raised in Logansport, which is about 10, 15 minutes from Delphi, 20 maybe. Lived there until I was 40, and then I moved to Indianapolis. I do play music. I'm a bass player, and I'm a singer when I have my voice. I haven't had it for a very long time, but I am going to ear, nose, and throat doctor here in a couple of weeks, so we'll figure out what's going on there. I am writing a book, and I recently submitted a couple of chapters, so things are rolling. And I've seen some people say that I'm self-publishing it, and that's kind of been the story of me ever since I got online. I don't know a thing, but I have secret sources of information. I don't understand, but it's all these different, things going back and forth. It was, he's friends with Tony Klein. What a creep he is. And then it's, he's not friends with Tony Klein. What a creep he is, So I can't win either way with some of these people, and that's fine. I don't care. I do work in a bar. I am a bouncer. People like to say I do dishes. And what I always say to people that say I'm a dishwasher at the pub, come on out and get your dishes washed anytime.
Yeah,
I don't talk shit. I back up what I say. I don't lie, which a lot of people, the first thing they want to say, Snay's a big liar. Tell me one thing I lied about. Nothing. So, but that's about it right now. I'm working on the book, and that's what is the central thing in my life right now, is getting that out as quickly as possible. I don't know if I'm going to be able to beat Murder Sheet by an August deadline, but the publisher says we could probably be out by the end of the year.
Okay, nice, cool, man. Personal question, Rick, what's going on with your voice? I know that sometimes it's like not good, sometimes it's good again. What's
yeah,
the issue there?
A big part of it is the weather. When the weather gets really cold like this, and it's cold and damp and windy, perfect combination. If I'm outside any length of time, I'll lose my voice. I have some struggle with it. I have I know one problem I have is a paroxysmal vocal cord, which I've lived with and worked with and learned to sing again and all that. But one of the other problems I have is sinus drip into my throat that causes me to have problems, and that is always irritated when I have an emotional period of time where, and I'm going to say it, I cried my eyes out about this. When I found out about this, I was at work, and we were already short a bouncer. I couldn't leave Dan by himself, so Dan told me, hey, just anytime, because he says you can't show weakness, man. So anytime I felt like I needed to cry, I'd go back in the office and just let it go, and not too much of a man to admit that. And that's why today my voice is really bad.
Yeah, no, I got it. Okay, I hope you're gonna improve soon, Rick, because you need your voice, man, for your channel for sure. And regarding your channel, tell us something about Delphi After Dark. How did you start the channel? Why? How was that process for you?
It was basically what put me on YouTube was Skip Jansen and Jeff Burke. We were all kind of part of the same group on Reddit, and I had a connection to Libby's family, and they knew that I could talk to people in her family, and they wanted to use that for their whole Daniel Pearson thing, trying to convince that he wanted. Skip specifically wanted me to get a meeting with the family set up so that he could talk to them and try to convince them that Daniel Pearson was the killer. When I started putting out some of the evidence that they had about Daniel being the killer, I put out something and somebody debunked it. They said, hey, this was done by a certain email program or something like that. And they said, that program didn't use this or that at that time. Somehow they knew it was fake. And my phone was blowing up while I used to do trivia shows, and my phone was blowing up while I was doing a show, and both Jeff and Skip were trying to get me to take it down. And within a couple of days, they were on Reddit. They had a true lady who was the moderator of the Libby and Abby sub, where I spent 99% of my time on Reddit. They had her ban me, so I couldn't fight back. And then they started telling a bunch of lies about me, basically throwing me under the bus. So I went to YouTube and made a couple of videos. I'd already made a video or two about Daniel Pearson, and I made a couple of videos addressing them. And before I knew it, people were asking me, when's your next video coming out? I was like, oh, I guess I'm a creator now. And that was 3 years ago, and here we are.
Yeah. Oh, excellent. And okay, you know that one of my favorite subjects here is the client. I know that you have a lot of information about that because you know Tony. I think you talked to Keegan also at one time, if I'm not mistaken. So we disagree. I have my theories about the client, but I want to know your perspective, your opinions about that. And so can you tell me about that? Tell me, how did you start talking to Tony Klein? How was that contact? How is your relationship with him? Maybe we can start with that, if that's okay.
Well, we can do that. Right now, Tony and I haven't been communicating for a little while. He gets mad at me every time I mention his name online, but then people like Greeno say, oh, I interviewed Tony Klein and he told me he likes little girls, and I know that to be a lie. So I bring it up and say Greeno was lying, and he gets mad at me and blocks me on Facebook. So he's done that again recently, about a couple of months ago, and he sent me a friend request. I'm thinking about whether or not I want to accept it, because it's going to do, it's going to be the same thing if I mention his name. And me, I don't hold back from saying something,
Yeah.
But what happened back before Richard Allen's arrest, I was probably, if not one of the only YouTube channels that did not believe either Klein had anything to do with this.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very vocal about that, and it caught Tony's attention. And he watched my channel. I was the only one he watched. And when he heard I was going to be attending one of Kagan's hearings at court, he sent me a message on Facebook, and he asked me, hey, if I give you my phone number, will you call me? I said, sure. So he sent me his number. I called him, and he said, I want to know, you're going to be in Peru. He said, I want to know if we could meet up today, and I just want to talk to you. And I was like, okay, sure. So I met him, and I immediately, within minutes, I knew this guy just doesn't have a killer in him. If you look at his pictures and you don't listen to his voice, and you've never met him in person and never seen how he is, you look at his pictures, he looks mean as hell. He looks evil in some of them. That's just how he is. He's a big guy. He has always been kind of intimidating and a rough guy. He's no angel. He'll admit to that. I know a lot of stuff he's done in the past, and he doesn't hide from it. So as far as Kagan, when Tony was in the hospital and he lost half of one foot and half of a leg, he was in the hospital downtown in Indy, 10 minutes from my house. So I went to see him quite a bit. I mean, I knew he had to be bored, lonely, frustrated. So I would go see him and just make him laugh for a couple of hours. And Kagan knew that I did that. And Kagan felt terrible about implicating his dad. So he wanted to talk to me. He actually reached out to me and said, can we talk before they ship me to prison? So shortly after his sentencing, I did go ahead and have a half-hour conversation with him. And I feel like he was mostly honest due to feeling like he owed me that for his dad. And he wanted me to try to get him and his dad talking again, which I tried to do, but Tony wouldn't have any part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
did you meet Kagan personally, or it was
they're just talking on the phone?
On the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What type of information or communication Tony Klein gives to you? That, let's say, do you talk about his alibi at the time of the murders, things like that, or is just a relationship that is not related to the case, let's say, or it's a combination of both things?
We've talked about quite a bit. We've talked about as far as where he was that day. He was home, and then he went to work later that day. And it's important to note the FBI cleared both of the clients on February 26, 2017. You can still find that if you go to overseas sources of information. The Indiana State Police and the Delphi Police, when they came back around in 2020 and said, let's try and frame this guy, they had all of that expunged in any American media. But still, the day after the raid, the FBI officially said these guys had nothing to do with this. It's one of the reasons, if you look, about the time that Carter told the FBI to take a hike was when they were going back and trying to frame Kagan. And when that didn't work, Richard Allen. And it was just in time to save Tony Liggett's ass in the election. So, but that was, I mean, I to me, if you ask me whether or not I would trust the FBI or Tony Liggett and Tobe Lesenby, there's not a contest there.
Yeah, 100%. So Tony told you that he was at home that day, and Keegan was also there, according to Tony, or
he was there for most of the day. He did leave for a while, but it wasn't during the time that the girls were on the bridge. It was probably later than that. He said that Kagan usually slept until the afternoon anyway. So, he was hardly ever up before like 10 in the morning ever. And he said that was probably one of the days when he slept late. So, but he was there for part of the day, and they did watch a WWE pay-per-view that Kagan had downloaded off of the Pirate Bay and record. He downloaded the recording so he and his dad could watch it, and they did watch that. And then after that is when Kagan left. Tony assumed he was probably going to try and find some weed.
What time Kagan left?
Like I said, I would say Tony said he probably got up between 10 and noon. They watched the pay-per-view thing. That's a couple of hours. So sometime after 2, maybe, I say maybe, I think probably between 2 and 3 p.m. would probably be about the time that he would be going if they watched the pay-per-view right around noon. I don't know if they started it then or not. He said they started it, after Kagan got up, but I don't know how long before, or how long after.
How long does it take to go from that house to Delphi? Let's say if Kagan left the house, what was the timing to go potentially from that house to Delphi?
Well, if he left at say 2:00, he would get there probably about 2:30, around there, 2:20, 2:30, around in there.
Do you think that that's a possibility? Let's say that Tony stayed at home and Kagan went to Delphi?
No, because the FBI verified where they were. So apparently, I'd have to assume the FBI asked Kagan where he went, and he told them, and they checked with the person that he went. Like I said, Tony said he probably was going to get weed, and they asked the person or whatever. But I know the FBI told Tony and Kagan on more than one occasion that they had cleared him. So I personally don't think he went to Peru that day at all. Delphi.
Yeah. I know that, of course, you are not a naive person at all, but we know that the clients, they are very manipulator persons. Do you think that there's a possibility that Tony is manipulating you, telling you lies, or...
Sure. Yeah. It's possible, but I don't mean this in a bad way. I don't think he has the intellect.
Okay.
He's not a devious type person intellectually. To manipulate people requires a certain level of intelligence, and I just don't think he possesses that. He's I want to say a simple person, but I don't mean simple like he's stupid or anything like that. But now, as far as the question here, did Kagan drive? As far as I know, he had a driver's license. He didn't have a car. If he went somewhere and Tony didn't drive him, then he probably was driven by his neighbor across the street that he was good friends with, which I had his name. Shoot, I'll have to try and remember it again. But
in the transcripts, in the transcripts of Keegan Klein, I think
Dirk was his name. DERK is how he spelled it. Dirk lived across the street from Kagan, like right across the street. And if he went somewhere and Tony didn't take him, I don't know that Tony would let him just take his car. I don't know. Never asked him. But I would think that if Kagan went somewhere and he, wasn't driving, it would have been Dirk that would have taken him.
During when you see the transcripts, the interrogation, at one point, I think it was Vido who asked Keegan Klein, what type of car do you drive? And he answers 98 American something. He gave the
Grand Am. I think it was a Grand Am.
Yeah. And there are some pictures in Facebook or on Twitter, I don't remember, and you can see Keegan showing his arm on the wheel in the red Jeep. So I don't know if he was driving the red Jeep or not, but I think he used to drive.
Yeah, I'm sure he did.
Yeah. You said that Tony he lost part of his leg and part of his foot. So is he like in a wheelchair right now? Or?
No, he has a prosthetic leg.
Okay. Where is he now? Is in Peru or?
He's out of state. That's all I'll say. He lives in another state now.
Yeah, no problem. Did he know about Keegan Klein's online activity?
He didn't know about the catfishing stuff. He knew that he played a lot of games online. He knew that he had dope friends online. He knew that he downloaded pirated stuff, but he didn't know that he was catfishing little little girls.
So he was not aware of that. So that means that when we hear about the account, Emilian, some people say, or maybe me too, we think that maybe Tony was using that account. So it was, according to you, it was Keegan using Anthony Shots and Emilian,
No,
only Keegan?
not necessarily.
No?
When I asked Kagan who the second user of the Anthony Shots account was, and it was Dirk, his buddy. When you look at, they said that the second user was with, in the house, in Kagan's house.
Mm-hmm.
You got to understand here, how did they know he was in the house? Well, they don't, but they know he was using the same Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you look at, and like I said, people have said before something about, did Dirk live across the street or did he live next door? I get confused because Tony has a friend that's a cop in Peru, or he's actually, I think he's in Peru, or in Young America, a cop in Young America or something. And either he lived next door and Dirk lived across the street, or vice versa. So they were neighbors, let's say that. Now, if Dirk had the password for Kagan and Tony's Wi-Fi, and he had the passwords for Kagan's accounts, he could have signed on to their Wi-Fi from across the street or next door. You can see your neighbor's Wi-Fi when you select a network on your devices. That means you can connect to it if you have the password. So Dirk could very easily have been using the Wi-Fi and made it look like he was in the house. But according to Kagan, Dirk was the second user. And I think it's important to note here that Kagan initially, after the first trip to Vegas, Kagan initially came back from Vegas. Dirk didn't. He stayed in Vegas. He moved further west. So if you're looking at people that acted suspicious afterwards that were connected to the Anthony Shots account, it was more Dirk than Kagan. So that's something that I look at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned Vegas. That was one of my questions. Don't you find that trip very suspicious? The trip
Not
to
at
Vegas?
all.
No?
Not at all, because the one thing you got to understand is that Tony was employed by Chrysler, and he also was a member of a union. And I know from being in a union and a union steward and everything, both the employer and the union keeps track of your vacation requests. Tony requested that time off to go to Vegas way back in November. So, I mean, that's how when you work in a union, whoever gets that vacation scheduled first, they can take that time. So you got to schedule vacations ahead of time. And that vacation was scheduled, planned, and approved by both the union and the company. I've seen the paperwork myself, and it was planned way back in November. So it wasn't something that they did to get out of town or whatever.
So that was pre-planned.
Yeah.
If I understand well. How is the relationship between Tony and Kagan today?
Last I knew, there wasn't one.
Yeah. And that was because
Tony refuses to take his calls.
Mm-hmm. And that was because Kagan was trying to throw Tony under the bus, right?
Well, see, this is what I don't see it as him trying to throw Kagan under the bus. To me, Tony. To me, what it looks like, Kagan's a talker. He's a liar. He even told me he lies a lot. He makes stuff up. And he was in jail, bored, lonely, needed money, things like that. And these women, these, whatever you want to call them, people like Wife Lilith and Kelly Brown, people like that, they were thinking that they were playing him. But no, he was playing them. He was telling each one of them whatever he figured out they wanted to hear. Kelly wanted to hear that it was his dad. Holly wanted to hear that he was part of some sex ring, and that's what he told him. Whatever he figured out they wanted to say. That, well, you keep my name out of your mouth then, Lilith. Now, this woman is a liar. I don't know why anybody would still listen to her. She has been proven many, many times over to be a liar. She told us Kagan was on his way to testify in Delphi. He was not. So Kagan was playing her, and he told her whatever she wanted to hear. She made up a story about her daughter being catfished. It was all lies. And that was basically how the story of the red Jeep got started.
Okay. Talking about the red Jeep, now that you bring the subject, it's just that to me it's very coincidental that the timing. After that interrogatory of Keegan Klein at the Grissom Air Force Base, right away, law enforcement go to the search of the Wabash River, and right away, they arrest Richard Allen. It happened like in a couple of, not even 2 months, I think. After 5 years of having any development here, it's crazy. That blows my mind. What do you think about that?
First of all, let me say to Lilith here, she seems to be, Lilith, shut the fuck up. You're a liar. You've been exposed as a liar. Tony was not the second user. I suppose you're smarter than the FBI. You got played, girl. You got played. All right. Where are you now? Where are you living now? Because you got thrown out of your house for forging your damn name on a document. Don't tell me you didn't, because look at my friends list on Facebook. Joshua Brickley is on my friends list. Now go away. Go away. Anyway, this woman's a liar. She's insane. I'm sorry, what was the question again? No, I know.
Wabash River, Red Jeep, Wabash River.
Yes, I do know what they were looking for in the Wabash River, but there's a slight problem here. They didn't take, it wasn't that way. They didn't take him to Grissom, which is Miami Correctional. They didn't take him there before the search. They took him there after the search. They took custody of him before the search because he had told Kelly Brown that his dad waited in a red Jeep while his dad went to kill the girls. And his dad came back with blood all over him. And he said he gave him a knife and a phone and told him to throw it in the river when they were crossing the bridge. That was why. And they only took him from the jail cell to an interrogation room the first time. But in order to question him, because he was in custody of Miami County, the Miami County Sheriff's Office. In order to question him, the state police first had to take custody of him. And they only took custody of him for a very short time. They took him to another room in the Miami County Sheriff's Office, and they questioned him. And he basically repeated the same story that he had told Kelly, and they took him back to his cell. Then they searched the river for 6 weeks and didn't find anything. That's when they came and took custody of him again and took him to Miami County, the correctional facility. They took him to Grissom Air Force Base, where the correctional facility was built, and showed him general population. And David Vito told him, you see that down there? He said, if you don't start telling us the truth, we're going to put you down there and watch you get raped and beaten every day until you die. And that is when he finally gave up and said, guys, I don't know a damn thing about Delphi. And after that, they realized, well, what do we do now? Because we thought we were going to be able to, arrest Kagan or his father for this crime. They were running out of time. The election was coming up. It was a couple of weeks away, basically. And Liggett was losing. And if he would have lost, Mark Pinkard would have blown the lid off of this thing. And they decided the reason he got that long sentence, Kagan got sentenced to twice as long as people get for second-degree murder. And the reason he got that long sentence is because they were pissed that he yanked their chain for a month or for 6 weeks and caused them to scramble to find another patsy.
Do you think that law enforcement is that stupid to go to search the river if they knew
They
that
were
that
desperate.
Keegan is
Not so
alive?
much stupid, but desperate. They believed him. They believed he was telling Kelly Brown the truth. And when they asked him about it, he just kind of hemmed and hawed and everything. Didn't really say one way or the other, but he led them to believe that he was telling her the truth. And they set up the thing and they went there and these are the same people. You got to understand something here. As far as stupid, these are the same people. Jerry Holman tried to get people to believe that after Richard Allen said he used his CVS box cutter to kill the girls and threw it in the CVS dumpster, Jerry actually tried to get the public to believe that he took his crack team of investigators out to that dumpster and searched that dumpster. 5 years later, they are dumb. They are stupid. But it wasn't the stupidity. It was desperation. They needed a patsy. They needed to close this case. And, and not just because of the election. Mm-hmm. But they were being leaned on by other people too. So, you can draw your own conclusions there. But they live in Carroll County. They live in Delphi, and their last names start with a P. So,
I get your point, and I respect your idea, Rick. But I see the things differently. To me, they found something, and I think Keegan made a negotiation with law enforcement. To me, the dots connect like that. Keegan, confession, Wabash River, and arrest of Allen. But
let me ask you this: what was he facing that he made a deal to get 40 years?
I think that sentence is going to be reduced at one point. That's part of the deal. We're going to give you 43 years, but let's talk in 5 years, Rick.
Let me ask you.
The sentence is going to be reduced.
Let me ask you this: if either one of the clients were involved, why did the state say you couldn't say the name Kagan Klein or Tony Klein at the trial? So, we can talk in 5 years, and I will tell you one thing right now. If we will talk in 5 years, I guarantee you, Kagan Klein will still be in prison, sentenced to the same sentence, and Richard Allen will be free.
And I'm gonna tell you, you were right, Rick. If that's the case, let's see. Let's have a beer in 5 years.
I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, me neither. I lost my idea here. Okay.
I do that all the time.
No. Do you think that there is any connection or any potential relation between the clients and Richard Allen, or not at all? No.
Tony doesn't know who he is. I don't know why Kagan would. When I was Kagan's age, I didn't hang out with a lot of people in their 50s. So I don't believe the stories that are being told. I believe that Kagan told Reese Davis that, but I don't believe it was the truth, that he knew Ron Logan and so forth. There's no proof of that. So, I don't give it a lot of credibility.
Yeah. What do you think about what is happening today? Richard Allen is being transferred from Westville to Pendleton, and Ricky Davis is talking. It's like everything at the same time. It's kind of weird. What's your feeling about that?
It looks that way, but the thing is, I know the story that's behind the scenes. She's the kind of person that doesn't go around asking for credit. So I'm going to keep this as bare bones as I can. A benefactor with the ability, with the resources to contact certain people, got him a civil rights lawyer. Civil rights lawyer showed up at Westville. They were caught completely off guard. They had to let him in, and they had to let him see Rick. because of the pressure that has been put on DOC, he was moved to Westville is a level 5 security prison with no access to mental health. The civil rights lawyer told them, look, this guy has mental health issues. Whether you believe he's guilty or innocent, he has mental health issues. It is only human compassion to get him mental health treatment. So they had to move him to a facility that has mental health treatment. So he went from a level 5 security with no mental health treatment to a level 3 security with mental health treatment. And he's going to be able to see his family more. His attorneys are going to have better access to him, things like that. So it's a step up no matter how you look at it.
It's gonna be Richard Allen safer there, or it's gonna be more exposed to other inmates?
Now that I couldn't tell you. I don't have any idea how things work at Pendleton, but I would say they're not going to be keeping as close an eye on him as they were. Mm-hmm. So whether that's good or bad, it could go both ways, really.
Yeah, exactly. I was reading today that the Pendleton facility is kind of fishy in terms of aggressions, let's say, between inmates. So I hope he's not going to be attacked or something like that.
I had a friend that worked as a guard at Pendleton, and there are apparently fights there, so I don't know. I guess we'll just have to see how things work out.
Yeah. Why do you think that law enforcement blamed Richard Allen and not the Kleins or Ron Logan? It seems to be more complicated to blame Richard Allen than the Kleins or Logan. Why did they go to Allen?
Well, the first reason is they wanted what prison is worse? I'd say Westville. It's been some what you mean by worse. Was he in better hands? I'd say Westville would be worse. So if this is what I look at it, they wanted to blame Kagan. And if you look at it, that was the way it was going all along. They used Murder Sheet as a mouthpiece to feed the public information about Kagan to make him look guilty. Starting way back in February 2021, when they had Kagan sitting in their jail cell already for 5 months. They arrested him in August of 2020. They had him in the jail cell in February when Lee Kerr went on Facebook and Reddit and everything and started claiming that the younger Sketch was a Snapchat person that Libby was talking to. They were trying to set it up to say that the cop from Alaska, the model, if you look at that younger guy Sketch, it can kind of look like that guy. So they were trying to say that it was him. I mean, same type of hair and everything, younger guy, clean shaven,
It doesn't look like him to me. But
it doesn't look like Richard Allen either.
No.
Not a thing like Richard Allen.
No, 100%.
But they were trying to set up that whole year. That's why Murder Sheet was given the transcript of the interrogation. They go in. I actually am trying to set up an interview with the news woman from she used to be here in Indiana. And I believe she worked for WXIN. I'm not sure. I could be wrong. But she's checking right now because I want to interview her for my book. She's the one that found out that while they were saying the stuff about, have you talked to Anthony Schatz online? They were trying to make it look like they had no idea who this was, but they had him already in their jail cell. She's the one that made them come forward. So I'm trying to get an interview with her. They came forward and they said, okay, yeah, his name's Kagan Klein. We got him in jail. And then Barbara McDonald interviewed him. And he said then he had no idea about anything about Delphi. He said that Barbara asked him, "Why do you think they think you do have something to do with it?" And he said, "I don't know. I guess it's because that I'm the last person to talk to her or something." And she said, "Well, were you the last person to talk to her?" And he said, "I don't know. That's what they say." So I think he was being honest then, that he had no idea whether he talked to her last or not. And I think what happened more than anything is they have been trying to set this up all along to be Kagan Klein. And that's why they started coming around with it again. And the FBI started saying, "No, wait a minute here. No, we went down this road before. It is not these people." And Carter kicked him out of the Unified Command. Mm-hmm. So that all happened about the same time that they went back to the Kleins and tried to pin the case on them. They were getting desperate. And they, you got this story about Kathy Shank finding a tip in a drawer. That is such bullshit. And you can look at this woman when they talk about it in public and see that look on her face and tell she's a liar. I mean, she is very close to the Patties. Okay, first, if you're a secretary and you find a tip in the drawer marked cleared, why would you go to your superiors and say, "I think you're wrong about this guy"? That's
so fishy. That's so fishy, man.
Yeah,
nobody's gonna buy that theory for sure. You're right. And what is your theory about that? I cannot understand how that whole Dan Doolin or the clerical error narrative. Whoa, what's your theory about it?
Everything goes back to them using Murder Sheet to try and set up their story. The 2019 press conference, they had been people were saying things about a car being parked at the former CPS building. When Richard Allen told Dan Doolin that he parked at the old Farm Bureau building, there is an old Farm Bureau building that people would park at because it's not far from the trails. They would park there and they would walk to the trails from there. So when they said that this person parked at the old, or they wanted information about the person that parked at the old CPS building, if you look, just like with Kagan Klein, no cops ever said anything about Kagan Klein being a suspect or his dad. They were just talking to him. They discovered him while investigating Delphi, but they never connected him. The news would say a man connected to the Delphi case. The cops never did. Murder Sheet said it, but the cops never did. You got the same thing going on here. The cops had already mentioned somebody that parked at the CPS building. Now they had to shoehorn Richard Allen into that spot. So then Dan Doolin ends up putting in a report that says, well, he said he parked at the old Farm Bureau building, but we think he meant the old CPS building. Hello? That doesn't make any sense. You think he meant that? What did he say, Dan? What did he say? So, and another thing, if he told him, if Dan Doolin, or if he told Dan Doolin, I parked at the old Farm Bureau building, and Dan thought that meant he parked at the old CPS building, why didn't Dan come off of that back wall where he was standing during the 2019 press conference and say, oh, you're looking for the guy that parked there? I know who that was. I took that report. Oh, he just 100%. Forgot about it until Kathy found his report in the drawer.
Yeah.
Very good. But that don't hunt at all.
No, we're not going to buy that shitty theory for sure, or Rick, you're right. What do you think? I lost again my brain here.
You're catching my disease, man.
I wanted to say something and I lost it. Anyway, okay. What does it mean? The whole thing you just said is the murder sheet. Is they like the media weapon of law enforcement? Are they like in the payroll? What's going on there?
Um, Murder Sheet, I don't know where the connection came from, but they are very close to
Nick.
Jerry. Well, they're very close to Jerry Holman.
Mhm.
Murder Sheet. They have a really close connection with Jerry Holman, and that connection evolved into a connection with Doug Carter. When after I talked to Tony that day, this man, this 6'3" huge man that looks rough as hell, cried like a baby to me that day, and he'd never seen me face to face, but he cried that day about how his life was screwed up because of all of this, everything that they did. So I felt bad for him, and the people that were doing most of it were Murder Sheet. That's why I became friends with Murder Sheet. I wanted to find out where they were getting their information.
Yeah.
I never got proof directly, but I do know that when I was at that press conference that day after Richard Allen was arrested, I went up to talk to Anya and Kevin, and Carter was approaching from a different angle, and he got there first. I was standing like within 2 feet of him waiting to talk to them, and he shook their hands and said, "I want to thank you both for keeping your word." Later, I went to an event where they were speaking at, and someone asked them a question about if they had ever learned something through their podcasting activities that they weren't allowed to say right away. And they said yes. They said it was while they were, investigating a very high profile case, and they heard that there was going to be an arrest, and the police asked them not to say anything until after the arrest was made. So Murder Sheet, I went up there right after they got done talking, and I said, "That was Doug Carter thanking you for not saying anything, wasn't it?" And they admitted it was. So they got a tip off early before anybody else did. 2 days before Richard Allen was arrested on the 26th. We didn't hear anything until the 28th. Murder Sheet knew on the 26th, and they already had a show ready to go because they wanted to get the jump on demonizing Rick Allen to make him look evil, make him look like he had to be the killer.
Did you
Go ahead.
did you end your relationship with the Murder Sheet?
Yeah, I did. When they tried to set me up with the leaked photos,
I remember that.
they were trying. See, first, Mark Cohen was trying to get me to ask him for the crime scene photos. I didn't want them. He told me he had them. He had been giving me information for my channel, and that information was so on target that the investigators for the defense reached out to me and said, "You're getting good information here. Can we talk?" And of course, I could not reveal to them who I was getting the information from. I don't reveal my sources, so unless I'm given permission. So I couldn't tell them who, told me, but they told me that they could not answer questions for me. They could only ask them of me, but that they could confirm if I had something correct, And basically, Cohen was giving me all this information. And then when he got the pictures, I, hadn't heard from him for a while. And I wanted to see what was up. So I said, "Hey, man, what's going on? Haven't heard from you for for a week or so." He said, "Oh, just, I said, "Is there anything new?" He said, "Yeah, but it's just really sensitive stuff." I said, "Like what?" He said, "Crime scene photos." And I said, "Damn, well, talk to you later." I didn't ask for them. And then a couple of days later, after I received them from a totally different source, Murder Sheet called me to tell me that I should be careful because there's stuff going around that may or may not be crime scene photos. And I was like, are they trying to get me now to say, "Man, I'd like to see those" or something? So I said, "Oh, yeah, I already got those." And they said, "Oh, really?" And I said, yeah. And then they asked me, when did you get them? And right then I decided somebody is, something's funny here. So I said, I don't know. I can't remember when I got it. I've had them for about a week. I'd had them for a few hours. And then the very next morning, Murder Sheet and I said, let's have an agreement here. Because they said, oh, yeah, we got them too. After I said I had them, they said, oh, yeah, we got them too. Then the very next morning, after I had told nobody except Murder Sheet that I had them, I told Kevin and Anya, the person that gave them to me knew I had them. I know she didn't say a word to anybody. I trust that. So the next day, very early in the morning, I get a message that I didn't see till later because I had worked the night before and I was asleep. I get a message from someone named Rebecca Lynn Dunaway, who was running one of the biggest Abby and Libby groups on Facebook. And she said, hey, I hear you have crime scene photos. And I said, well, that's weird. I haven't told anybody. How'd you hear? Yes, Cohen and Murder Sheet were very much in contact. Murder Sheet got the crime scene photos from him, as did Ruckus George Nye. He got them from, and while he was condemning everybody else for having them, he was handing them out on his Discord server. So, a lot of hypocrisy going on.
Agree. So if we come back to your research about the case, let's say, it is clear that you never believed in the client's angle, that at the beginning you were working in the Daniel Pearson's theory, and then at one point, if I'm correct, you went to the Ron Logan theory, right? That's your theory today.
No, it's not.
No? It's not?
All I have ever said, okay, in the very beginning, I said, okay, this is my theory. At the very beginning of after I went on from Dan Pearson, I said, this is my theory, what could have happened. And I laid out a theory where Ron Logan could have been the killer. But all I've ever said, and if you go back and see, I've said it again and again, and it's the same thing every time. When I look at Bridge Guy, the picture and the video of Bridge Guy, I see Ron Logan. It's that simple. Do I think he killed the girls himself? I don't personally think that, but I think he was involved.
Okay, what's your theory, Matt? Let's say if you think he's involved, what do you think that could happen in regards of Ron Logan that day of the murders? What is the most plausible explanation you can give to the whole situation here?
Well, it's coming out now. It has been slowly coming out for a while. It's been coming out that Ron Logan was into little girls. He liked young girls. And in my opinion, the group that took the contract to kill Libby, when they made the plan, it was essential that they have somewhere close by to take the girls and hold them until everything died down and they could take them and stage them later on. Ron Logan's house was the perfect place to do it. And in my opinion, Abby being collateral damage, they really didn't care what happened to her. So I think one of the ways that they paid Ron Logan for helping them carry this out was by letting him have his way with Abby before they killed her. So in my opinion, those girls, in my opinion, the two-story change of incline that's recorded by Apple Health data on the phone, in my opinion, that was them going up into Ron Logan's hayloft on his barn. And I think that's where they were held until the murders were done. And then they were moved in the middle of the night and staged where they were found.
You use the word contract. Are you talking about what? About drugs? About revenge?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And if you, the problem was that the Patties most of their money was coming from Derek's meth dealing. When Derek burned everybody he ever dealt with, he put a huge target on his own head. But the thing is, whoever he pissed off the most, they were very mean and nasty people. And they're the type of people that will kill your family before they kill you because they want you to know. To me, what I think is, after the murders, I think someone contacted him and said, I want to make sure you know your daughter knew it was your fault what happened to her. They roughed Libby up. They slapped her around and they killed her. They cut her deep. Whereas with Abby, it was just kind of stab her in the neck and let her bleed out. But
and that's why Abby was treated better, let's say.
Abby was cleaned. Abby was dressed. She was, posted or positioned like the Hanged Man tarot card and everything. And had her arms up like this. It was the Hanged Man tarot card represents Odin in the tarot deck, because Odin was supposedly hanged on a tree upside down sort of thing. So the the whole thing about excuse me, the whole thing about how they were found, Libby, now like I said, you can say what you want, but there are too many coincidences here. 2 girls murdered and then positioned. They just happened to be in the position of 2 tarot cards. Libby was in the position of the magician with her arm up and the other arm down like this. Abby was positioned like the Hanged Man. So there was definitely an attempt to pose them in those various ways. The fact that both of them were there and both of them just happened to be in a position of a tarot card, to me, if just one of them was, you could say that's coincidence. But both of them posed in the same position as a tarot card, nah, I don't think that's a coincidence. Tarot is Odinists. They're kind of they're like, I see Criminal Network just said linked. Yeah, they are. They're linked. And there are a lot of Nordic Odinism references and images on tarot cards. So, yeah. And if you think about it, there was never any talk of blood from Abby at the crime scene. If you look at the crime scene photos, that's what convinced me that Richard Allen was innocent, because there's no way one man did all of that and had time to clean himself up and make sure none of his DNA was left there. The DNA that's there is male DNA there. It's not Richard Allen's. How the hell can you just say in the murder of 2 children, yeah, there's DNA there, but it's not that important. It's not important to them because it didn't match their story. But there is male DNA there. And I believe you can do something with that. You can get at least close to finding out who matches it.
Mm-hmm. I just missed something here, Rick. When you said, I understand your theory, that makes sense. It's a theory that makes sense. But when you said that Ron Logan was into little girls, what was the relationship between that and the drug-related situation?
Ron was, okay. Ron had more than one younger, and when I say younger, I mean his girlfriends were, 30-ish. He liked young women. They were always drug addicted. He would offer them a place to live and would feed their drug habit for them in exchange for sex. So the connection between Ron Logan in all of this. He connected to them because he bought drugs from them for his girlfriends.
Mm-hmm.
Robin Wakeling does Snay still think it's DP. Honey, you are so far in the past, and it's not even funny anymore. It's just not even funny anymore. Come on, grow up, really. We're talking about two little girls being murdered, and this jerk wants to.
Do you what was found at Logan's house, let's say, during the search warrants? Did they find anything linking Logan with the crime, or not at all?
They didn't find anything as far as I know because they gave him a month before they cleaned it out. And the funny thing is, they weren't even going to search his house. The only reason they did, they came and got him. And I showed the receipts on this one because I showed the report from the guy that made the report and everything. They came to his house. They said, "Can we search your house?" He said, "No, I don't think I want you to search my house." Okay. Now, the last time this happened, well, it may not be the last time, but a previous time when this happened, he had his girlfriend at the time, whose name was, I believe it was Kathy. Somebody reported there was a woman screaming in the middle of the road, call the police outside of his house.
Mm-hmm.
Cops got there. The girl was gone, but her flip-flops were out in the yard. They got there and talked to Ron. He was drunk. He said she was gone. She got in her car and left, right? So then the cops said, "Well, you mind if we look around the house?" He said, "I don't want you to do that." So this time they said, "Well, okay, but I'll just leave my guy here and I'll go get a search warrant and we'll come back." And then Ron said, "Well, okay, yeah, you can search the house." And he said, "Oh, as a matter of fact, I just remembered Kathy's still here. She's asleep under a bunch of clothes on the couch in the other room." So he takes him in there, wakes her up, and she says, they asked her, they said she smelled alcohol. She smelled like alcohol. They asked her, "Are you okay?" She said, "Yeah, I'm fine." Okay. Now this time when he told them, he did not want them to search the house. They didn't say, "We're going to leave a deputy here and we're going to go get a search warrant." They told him, "Okay, whatever, and they left. And then the guy Logan took them to one of his sheds, on his property, opened the door, showed them how packed it was, cluttered with stuff. And he said, "See, guys, my house looks the same. That's why I don't want you in there." That was a lie. Ron was a very, very tidy person. Very tidy. Ask Connie, she had to keep that place spotless or he would get pissed. And his other girlfriends would tell you the same. One of the things they were there to do was keep his house clean. So Ron told him, "Well, my house is like this," kind of trying to imply he was a hoarder. And that's why he didn't want to let him come in. Then they took him down to take a statement. And when he's sitting in the cop car, he tells one of the deputies that he thought he was kind of close to, he says, "Well, I'm going to tell you the truth here. Another reason I didn't want you searching the house is I got a lot of guns." And he was on probation. He wasn't supposed to have them. So if you look at that first search warrant, the one that Carroll County got, it is only for things that violated his probation. Nothing about the murders. That's why when they found the receipt in the trash can, they had to go get another search warrant. They weren't going to do that. Guess who went and got the other search warrant? The FBI. The ones that all along were trying to solve the case. Carroll County and Indiana State Police were trying to cover it up. The FBI was interested in solving it all along. That's why they got the boot. Mm-hmm. As far as, do I still talk to Kathy? Yes, I do. I just talked to her yesterday, as a matter of fact. So,
okay. How's she doing?
She's doing as well as you can expect. She is a very strong woman. She, man, they have not been able to break her. I expected the day of the verdict. I hurried around the corner because I wanted to get to where she was coming out so that I could be there when she came out, because I thought she was going to be devastated. I thought they may even need help carrying her to the car. She was pissed and she was ready to go. And she is still ready to go. She's very upset.
I imagine. Were you friends with Libby's family at one point?
I was, yes, at one point.
And of course, it's not the case anymore, right?
Well, this is how that sort of evolved. I went to school with Libby's father's, or not father, Libby's grandfather's sister. She was, he passed away, but she was a close friend of mine. We knew each other all through high school. I was in love with her from 5th grade on, and she was just always really nice. I was kind of an outcast at the school because I was like a city kid. You know, I was from Logansport. I had long hair. I liked, you know, Kiss and Led Zeppelin and stuff.
I want to see a picture, Rick.
I can show you pictures of me. I used to have a haystack hairstyle like Nikki Sixx from Motley Crue. In the 80s, my hair stood up this tall and was down here. But when I was like, you know, I was just a punk kid, you know, they were all farmers, you know. I would talk about, you know, wanting to go to a concert, and they would be talking about, you know, going to a livestock auction, you know, auction, stuff like that. I would bring comic books to school. They'd bring farm magazines. So she was nice to me all through school, and I really appreciated that. So we stayed friends. When Facebook came along, she's one of the first persons I accepted a friend request from. And we talked all the way up until recently. Well, when I found out that her brother's granddaughter was Libby, that's when I decided, you know, I want to take a little closer look into this. And it was just kind of an interest thing for me until I got COVID and had to take 6 weeks off work. You know, I got COVID before they had the vaccine, and it put me flat on my back, you know, for a month. And then I had to have 2 weeks before I got rid of the fever before they would let me go back to work. So I spent all that time diving into the case. And that's what got me as involved as I am now. I started talking to Carrie Timmons, first of all, and it was entirely an accident because I sent her a message once just to say, hey, you know, I'm, well, I can say her name, I guess. Dorinda is the name of the woman. I said, I'm Dorinda's friend, Rick, and, you know, I just wanted to say that I'm really sorry about what happened, you know, to your daughter. And just like probably a lot of people did. And then when I, you know, they were like in the same area there on my messages. When I went to send Dorinda a message, I accidentally clicked on Carrie's name and I typed up a short message and sent it to her, and she replied, you know. And I was like, "Ooh, shit." And I told her, I said, "I'm sorry, I thought I was talking to Dorinda." And she said, you know, yeah. So from that, we talked back and forth. We became, you know, close. I'm sure people saw me in Delphi a couple of times when I went to try, you know, hearings. I would always get up and hug her, you know, when I saw her. And, you know, from there, I started talking to Becky, and we talked for probably about a year before all of this happened. And then when they first arrested Richard Allen, I really thought, hey, this is it. They must have the guy, you know, why would they arrest him? So I believed it at first, but then I read the PCA. I started talking to people that knew him and everything. And I was like, no, there's something wrong here, you know? And I tried to tell Becky, you know, I said, Becky, you know, this doesn't add up. None of this adds up. And she said, oh, they got the right guy. He's the right guy. And I said, but how can you believe what law enforcement tells you now when they've been flat out lying to you for all this time? And she said, well, the families have spoken. I was like, okay, it's kind of a broad statement to say when you're only half of that equation. But she believed it was, well, she says she believed it was Richard Allen. So, you know, there you go with that. But honestly, I believe more than that, that one of the reasons that she accepts that it's Richard Allen is that she was afraid if the real people that did it went down for it, they would end up bringing more heat down on their son's head. This time, maybe he would be killed. And this time, maybe they wouldn't be so lucky. These are people that go around murdering people with fires. That's one of their ways of doing things. They did it in Florida. They did it in Arizona. You know, they start fires to get rid of people. They did it in Monticello. It's a pattern. So, and the Patties know this. That's why they went ahead and said, yeah, it's him, because they don't want the real people going down and the heat coming back on them.
Interesting. What about Abby's family? Were you friends with Anna or anyone from Abby's?
My wife was on a friendly basis with her grandma and grandpa, because they are the ones that booked things for the ballpark. And we had a musical act, so we offered to play at the park. We played a couple of Abby and Libby benefit shows. And my wife was the one that always was the point person contacting Eric, and his wife's name slips my mind right now, but they're Abby's grandparents. And of all the people I feel sorry for in this case, those two, Abby's grandparents, Anna and Carrie, those are the ones I feel worse for. Well, besides Kathy and Rick, but Anna, I won't say I was friends with her. Anna, it's hard to be friends with Anna. And to be honest, I don't blame her for being as bristly as she is. She will push people away. I've seen people say stuff like, well, I said she's just a big drunk and all that kind of stuff. And come on, man. I'm the guy that admitted that he had to take an Adderall one day during the trial because I took mushrooms and couldn't go to sleep. So I ate a 40 milligram gummy. I'm not one to point fingers at other people, what they do. Okay. But I basically draw the line at cocaine and meth and heroin, fentanyl. I don't do any of that shit. But I'm a daily cannabis user, and I love mushrooms. What can I say? So, but Anna, one time, she got very upset with me. And everybody says that, I called her a bitch and all that. No, the last thing I said, and I showed people on my show, I told her, I said, I'm sorry, Anna, that you feel this way. I really wish you would let people help you. And that was it. So I haven't spoken to her since. That's probably about 2 years ago, at least.
Do you know if Anna is satisfied with the verdict? We know that the parties they want to have Allen as the murderer because of what you just explained. But what about Anna?
In my opinion, I don't think Anna thinks they have the right guy. And I think that Anna is afraid I think she has thought in the past that maybe she could have been what brought this on, but I don't believe that. And I think that's just her guilty feeling. I think there's no reason for her to feel that way, but I think she does feel guilty, and I wish she didn't. But I think both of the mothers, there we go. I think Carrie and Anna, I don't think either one of them believes Richard Allen did this. And Anna or Carrie actually asked Richard Allen to put her on his visitors list. She said she was ready to listen to him.
Oh, interesting.
And I am going to be on that list. I'll be visiting him while he's at Pendleton.
Oh, yeah.
And I will encourage him to put both mothers on that list and talk to him and let them get to know him the way I've gotten to know his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gotten to know him through Kathy. The things people say about Kathy make me sick. And if they said it in front of me, I'd probably end up in jail. This woman has no evil in her at all. She is just the sweetest, kindest, most loving person in the world. You know, doesn't have a mean bone in her body. All these people saying that she told Ricky, you know, oh, you can't confess and all that. People saying she had to know because she said, well, you told me you weren't on the bridge that day. No, she did not say that. What she said was, you told me you didn't cross the bridge, and the cops are telling me your bullet is over there. And he said, look, I don't know what to tell you. You know, I didn't cross the bridge. But he did tell her he was on the bridge that day. She's the one that told him to go self-report, when he told her that. So these people that say these things about Kathy, it makes me sick. And like I said, you better not say it if I'm around.
Yeah. We know that Richard Allen, he didn't testify during the process. That was a strategy from the defense. But now that he is already convicted, do you think it would be a good move for him to go out to explain, to tell his side of the story or not?
I do. If I were him, I would be granting interviews, but I don't know his mental state. I don't know how far he's made progress. As far as Kathy during the trial, she volunteered. She said she would testify. You know, Ricky didn't want her to. Mm-hmm. And they honestly thought. And if we're being honest here, guys, I've seen plenty of people say, well, you know, I'm glad he got convicted, but I was kind of worried because the state didn't really have a case. Well, doesn't that tell you something? You know, they didn't have a case because he ain't the guy that did it. And these people, you know, she at no time did Kathy ever tell him not to confess or anything like that. She volunteered to testify if they thought she needed to. And Ricky didn't want her to because he didn't want her to be subject to this, you know, grilling on the stand and everything and try to make her look bad. So
what is your thinking about this? At one point, before or during the process, it was said that when Richard Allen was being transferred, like in that truck, he said that he felt sorry for Abby, but not for Libby, something like that. Do you remember that?
I do remember. I'd have to my mind would have to be refreshed. I do remember somebody saying that. I don't know if it's, you know, true or not, anything like that. I don't know why he would say that, you know. So, but I'd have to see the statement and everything, and who said that it was, you know, stated.
You say that you're gonna visit most probably Richard Allen. Is those experiences are gonna be in your book, or is it no?
Nothing about nothing about what I talked to Kathy about, unless she approves it, will be in the book. Nothing about me visiting him is going to be about my channel or the book. It's just a guy going to talk to a guy, or I plan to talk about sports. I plan to ask him what kind of books he would like to read, talk about history, things like that. You know, I just plan to be just a guy hanging out with a guy. I will not repeat anything he tells me on the channel, and it won't be in the book. The book itself, the book actually ends that day with me on the street corner shouting, "We are all Richard Allen." That's where it ends, right there. And then there will be an afterword for the book, which I've already written, that tells my theories of what could have happened. Actually, I talk about 3 different ways it all could have come down. And that's where the book will end. If we have success with this one, I'll probably write another one, but still, you know, my visits with Ricky are just going to be about, hanging out with him. That's all it's going to be about.
Okay, cool. Coming back to Ricky Davis, what do you think about the whole thing with the clients, with Ron Logan, the confessions, the box cutter? What's your idea about that?
I don't think he's lying. Reese Davis, I don't think he's lying. I do believe Kagan was lying to him because for some reason, Kagan likes to pretend that he's connected to these type of people that would do this sort of thing. But I believe that Ron Logan did say those things to him. But you got to know, what you have to understand about Ron Logan is he told several different stories. He has told, a couple of different people, different things about, he's confessed to at least 2 cellmates, and he's like Kagan. He tells different stories at different times. So I believe he did talk to Davis. I don't know if Davis was told the truth. And the same thing with Kagan. I don't think he was telling him the truth.
Okay, good point. Do you think that Brad Weber is part of this or not at all?
I don't know. I never have. It's possible. Anybody living in that area could have been involved in it. It's possible that, he could have been involved somehow. But I do know that his involvement as far as driving home at that particular time, they say, you have Greeno who says, that's not even, it's not even Brad Weber's van. His neighbor has a van just like his, and his neighbor was coming home at the same time. So all you're telling me, Greeno, is that there were 2 vans. So which van did he see? You can't tell me which one. So you don't know what time that white van was there. So, you want to try and say there were 2 vans? Fine. That don't help your case at all. It makes it more possible that it was a different time because now you got 2 vans. See?
Yeah, for sure. Oh, Rick, I think that were my questions for you. I don't know if do you want me to ask you something I didn't ask you?
Not that I know of. I got to tell you, Crip, it's you've been in my chat before, and we're talking here. We don't agree on this, but what you're seeing is this is how I am with people that approach it respectfully and respectfully disagree. People talk about, you can't disagree with Snay or he'll get all. No, you can disagree with me all you want. I have mods that don't agree with me, but
me too.
It's just respect. Just approach me respectfully, and I will treat you the same. And you have, and I appreciate that. Sorry, I got on a couple of your audience members, but I just can't anymore with Holly. This woman, and she wants to talk about my wife all the time. Is it going to be in chapter 2 where your wife left you? Holly, Laura and I are still together. We just don't live in the same house. You know why? You did that. So you can pat yourself on the back that you caused us this problem. But Holly is the one that started telling people that my wife, who worked for Marion County Paternity Court, she was a bailiff in the Marion County Security or Paternity Court. Okay. Holly started telling people that that's where I was getting my information. That's where I got the crime scene photos. It was a blatant lie. My wife had nothing to do with any of that. But Holly was telling people, I think if anybody's local, they need to go down to the courthouse and get in Laura Snay's face. And, she's the one that gave them access and all that. She put my wife's life in danger. She put her job in danger because she had people writing to her boss, writing to the Supreme Court of Indiana, writing to the mayor and the governor for some reason to talk about my wife giving me information on the Delphi case. She was employed by an entirely different county in an entirely different division. Now, she's a court reporter now for, I think, Supreme Court, but she still would never be able to get any kind of information. So, yeah, this woman has caused a lot of problems in my life. And that's why I just, I knew she was going to come in, and I knew she was going to start trouble because she's blocked on my channel. So anytime I go to somebody else's channel, she shows up. But she's simply a liar and an attention seeker and a crime junkie. And like I said on my my wall the other day, imagine giving yourself up as a sex toy to Jabba the Hutt in exchange for information about a crime that he wasn't even involved in. That's Holly, and that's why she's so salty.
I wanted to have Holly here in my channel because I want to hear her side of the story as well, but she refused. So it is what it is. And coming back to your point, Rick, when you were saying that we can disagree, we are not gonna kill each other just because we disagree. We can talk respectfully, and I think that's important because I don't want to talk to people who, yes, Cryptes, you're right. Yes, that is not interesting to me. I want to talk to people like you, like different with different ideas. And I know it was really cool to have you here tonight, Rick. It was really interesting. You have a lot of knowledge about this case, and thank you again.
I do appreciate you having me on. I want to say to Sub Rosa, who says the evidence is plentiful even without the confessions, you have an invitation. You can come on my channel. Come on my channel. I'll put you right next to me, and we'll talk about this evidence. My email address is delphiafterdark@gmail.com. Sub Rosa, email me. I'll have you on.
Sure.
And that goes for anybody. I will have anybody on that wants to debate the evidence.
Just don't pick a fight with Rick because he's going to come back to you.
Yeah. I give you what you give me. I mean, that's always been the case.
Sure. I'm going to stop the live here tonight, Rick. Maybe we can do another collaboration later. And
Sure.
Again,
I'll have you on my channel sometime.
Sure. Thank you so much, Rick.
All right. Thank you, man.
Stay in touch. Thank you, guys, in the chat. See ya.
Bye.
Ciao.